You would never have imagined what happened behind the scenes of The Passion of the Christ. What was supposed to be just another big film project turned into a spiritual epic full of unbelievable events. Serious injuries, inexplicable incidents, and even a lightning strike hitting one of the lead actors, all while the cast and crew gave themselves to a mission that went beyond the film. But what if these events weren't coincidences? What if they were divine signs? Get ready to discover the shocking details of what really happened during the filming of the movie that marked a generation. But the surprises didn't stop there. The experiences on set weren't just physical, they were spiritual. The deep connection to the faith and suffering of Christ led to reflections that still resonate today. Mel Gibson, the director, faced a wave of criticism, but his defense of the film led him to fight for something much greater than cinema itself. And what about the testimonies of faith from actors like Jim Caviezel, who experienced moments of intense spiritual engagement? This wasn't just a film, it was a true spiritual journey. Keep reading to understand how all of this unfolded and how it impacted the world far beyond the movie screens. During the filming of The Passion of the Christ, the cast and crew experienced a series of events that many believed were divine signs. Jim Caviezel, the actor who portrayed Jesus Christ, was one of the most affected. In addition to suffering serious physical injuries like a whiplash and a dislocated shoulder, he was also struck by lightning during a scene. These incidents weren't just accidents, they seemed to carry a symbolic weight, awakening in those involved the sense that something much greater was at play. This prompted a reflection on the spiritual intensity of the project, leading many to ask, could these events actually be signs that the film was touching something deeply sacred? On the other hand, these extreme physical experiences and spiritual challenges created a sense of unity on set. Faith was tested in a very concrete way, especially as the actor and director, Mel Gibson, came to believe that they were being guided by a higher power. Some cast members, like Caviezel and Claudia Schiffer, experienced moments of deep prayer and spiritual revelations while in the midst of filming. This devotion went beyond the simple act of doing the work, transforming the set into a true worship space for the gospel, where the line between devotion and acting became nearly invisible. This spiritually charged environment didn't just connect everyone to the film's central theme, it also fostered a sense that the project was a mission of faith. For many, Caviezel's physical wounds and the mysterious events weren't just coincidences, they were a reflection of how the film was being treated with reverence and respect. For those who believe in the power of prayer and divine purpose, these events could be seen as confirmation that the film's message needed to be delivered with the utmost authenticity. This created an expectation that the upcoming moments on set could be even more marked by signs of something greater than what we can see. The set of The Passion of the Christ was, without a doubt, one of the places where dedication and sacrifice met in their purest form. The actors, like Jim Caviezel, weren't just playing their roles. They were living the experience of Christ in such a profound way that physical and emotional limits seemed to dissolve. The actor endured extreme pain during filming, but something inside him, perhaps the strength of his faith, kept him standing. This kind of commitment isn't common in cinema, but in a project like this, it was essential. Caviezel knew that his mission was far more than just a job. He was becoming an instrument of something sacred. The crew didn't fall behind, enduring extreme heat and relentless work conditions. Many experienced spiritual moments as intense as those of the lead actors. Claudia Schiffer, who portrayed the Virgin Mary, spoke of deep connections with the divine during filming and how this allowed her to understand, on a visceral level, the suffering of her character. In this environment, it was impossible not to feel the presence of something greater, something that united everyone in a common mission. And this spirit of dedication wasn't just about giving the utmost physically, it was also an emotional and spiritual surrender. This kind of sacrifice is something we can apply to our own lives, especially regarding faith. If someone desires a deeper spiritual path, it's essential to understand that dedication and sacrifice are part of the process. This doesn't just mean enduring hardships, but embracing them with an open heart, as an act of worship and praise to God. The faith these actors and crew members demonstrated is a practical example of how we can live our own faith in everyday situations, even when challenges seem insurmountable. And, just like in the film, we can find a greater strength to keep moving forward. Mel Gibson, the director of The Passion of the Christ, was not spared from criticism during and after filming. The explicit depiction of violence, the intense suffering of Jesus Christ, and the raw way the film portrayed Christ's passion sparked heated debates. Many accused Gibson of being overly graphic and even promoting an anti-Semitic view through certain aspects of the script and casting choices. The pressure on him was immense, but the director never hesitated to defend his vision. For him, the goal of the film was to be a faithful and visceral representation of Christ's suffering, without softening or diminishing the gravity of the pain he endured. However, Gibson's defense wasn't just about justifying his art. He deeply believed that the film needed to make an impact, that the images of the crucifixion and Christ's suffering should be seen in a striking and realistic way. To him, this wasn't just an aesthetic choice, but a way to draw attention to the true meaning of Christ's sacrifice. Mel Gibson was willing to face criticism in defense of authenticity, believing that the audience should literally feel the weight of the crucifixion, not as something distant, but as something real, tangible, and deeply transformative. This kind of defense of an idea, even in the face of opposition, is something we can all learn to apply in our own lives. When we have a clear vision or mission, like faith in Christ, we must stand firm in our defense, no matter the criticism or difficulties that may arise. Gibson, with his bold approach, teaches us that the truth of our faith must be shared with courage, without fear of judgment, knowing that the impact of living according to our values will be far more meaningful than any criticism we might face. During the filming of The Passion of the Christ, the set was marked by a series of inexplicable phenomena that many attributed to a spiritual influence. One of the most striking accounts was a technical failure that happened at a crucial moment during filming. During one scene, the filming equipment began to malfunction repeatedly, without any logical explanation. But, as if by a miracle, the malfunctions were resolved as soon as some members of the crew began to pray spontaneously. This type of situation did not go unnoticed, and many on set began to believe they were being guided by a higher power to complete the film's divine mission. In addition, the atmosphere on set was filled with religious symbolism. Many involved in the project, from the actors to the technical crew, reported feeling a deep spiritual connection with the work they were doing. For some, the prayers said before and after each recording weren't just a ritual but a spiritual necessity. Mel Gibson himself acknowledged that his experience of faith deepened during the filming process, leading him to believe that he was being led by a greater force to create something that was more than just a film, a testimony of faith. This makes us reflect on the importance of maintaining a spiritual connection with our everyday actions, no matter what we're doing. Often, we're so focused on the tasks of daily life that we forget to seek that connection with the divine. But, as we saw on the set of The Passion of the Christ, prayer and spirituality can transform even the most ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences. And this doesn't just apply to films, it applies to everything we do in our lives, working, studying, or even in simple interactions with those around us. When we are spiritually aligned, our actions gain a greater meaning. When The Passion of the Christ was released, its cultural impact was undeniable. The film not only depicted Christ's suffering in a raw and realistic way, but also sparked a global debate about the meaning of faith and sacrifice. For many viewers, the film served as a call to reflection, forcing them to confront their own beliefs and their relationship with spirituality. The visceral portrayal of Christ's passion made people from various religions and cultures question the depth of their faith, and how the suffering and death of Christ could be more than a distant historical event, but something alive and relevant in their own lives. The film also contributed to the renaissance of religious cinema, addressing faith with an honesty and intensity rarely seen on the big screen. This sparked a new wave of films and productions focused on spiritual themes, where spirituality was treated with respect and seriousness, without resorting to sensationalism. This movement not only influenced cinema but also brought renewed attention to devotional practices and the teaching of scriptures, especially among young Christians. It was as if the film, silently, had sparked a flame in the hearts of those who had drifted away from religion, inspiring them to reconnect with their spiritual roots. However, the true reflection brought by the film went beyond the screen. It reached far beyond discussions of art and cinema, prompting many to re-evaluate how they live their faith on a daily basis. This also makes us reflect on how often we need to be shaken to realize the power of spirituality in our everyday lives. The Passion of the Christ was not just a film, it was a mirror, showing us the depth of Christ's sacrifice and inviting us to reconsider the impact of faith in our own lives. One of the most impressive aspects of the Passion of the Christ was its commitment to historical authenticity. Mel Gibson and his team sought to recreate the events of Christ's life with accuracy, and this required immense research efforts. The film was shot in ancient languages, such as Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, to ensure that the dialogues were as faithful as possible to the historical context. This wasn't just an aesthetic choice, it was an attempt to give voice to the words of Christ in a way that reflected the reality of the time, transporting the audience directly to that sacred time. In addition to the languages, the production made sure to detail the sets and costumes based on archaeological studies. The sets weren't just backdrops, but carefully constructed representations of the landscapes of first-century Judea, accurately reflecting the cities and villages that Jesus would have known. The costumes, from the garments of the characters to the accessories and weapons used by the Roman soldiers, were meticulously designed to reflect the era and customs of the time. Every detail was carefully thought out to create an atmosphere that didn't just tell a story but transported the viewer to ancient Jerusalem, allowing them to experience the historical moments in a realistic way. This commitment to authenticity isn't just a lesson for cinema but also a lesson for our own lives. In a world where we often seek quick and easy results, it's important to remember that true depth comes when we dedicate ourselves to research and study. Just as Gibson and his team sought to deeply understand the historical context to portray the truth of Christ, we too can seek a deeper understanding of our faith and values. Constant study of the Scriptures, the history of the Church, and Christian traditions can help us live a more authentic and profound faith, reflecting the same care with which the Passion of the Christ was created. The Passion of the Christ left a lasting legacy that went beyond the realm of cinema. The film not only had an immediate impact upon release but also opened doors for broader discussions about faith and spirituality in popular culture. The success of the film sparked proposals for re-releases, digital restorations, and even the idea of a sequel. The follow-up, The Resurrection of Christ, promises to delve even deeper into the story, exploring what happens after the crucifixion and the impact of Christ's resurrection on the world. The desire to keep the flame of this message alive has exceeded expectations, and many voices are calling for a sequel that continues to impact generations. The film also sparked reflection on how Christianity can be represented in art. The visceral portrayal of faith, with its raw and realistic approach, showed the importance of treating spiritual themes authentically, without fear of confronting the audience with the harshness of reality. This narrative style became a model for other filmmakers who wished to approach religious themes with seriousness and depth. The cultural impact of the film generated a movement of spirituality that not only influenced cinema but also motivated many evangelism and religious education initiatives, especially among young Christians. This legacy is not limited to cinema but is also reflected in concrete actions, such as the creation of reflection spaces, seminars, and Bible study meetings inspired by the work. Mel Gibson, unlike many filmmakers who seek fame alone, managed to create something that resonated with the faith of millions, showing that cinema can be a powerful tool to deepen spirituality and inspire profound change. What the Passion of the Christ teaches us is that when there is dedication and purpose, a project can transcend its initial form and continue to impact and transform lives long after the filming has ended. The commercial success of The Passion of the Christ was nothing short of astounding, surpassing expectations for many. With a global gross of over $600 million, the film became not only a cultural phenomenon but also a financial one. However, what truly stood out wasn't just the profit generated, but how those resources were used. Mel Gibson and his team chose to direct a significant portion of the profits to charitable causes, such as building hospitals and schools in underserved communities. This added an even deeper dimension to the project, showing that the work was not only a pursuit of financial success but a mission of faith and social action. Additionally, The Passion of the Christ had a significant impact on religious communities worldwide. The film inspired churches to use cinema as a tool for spiritual education. Many congregations began screening the film as part of Bible studies and worship services, using the work as a way to deepen the understanding of Christ's passion and resurrection. The idea that cinema could be an effective form of evangelism was solidified, leading to a more strategic use of religious productions as a way to bring people closer to the faith. This social and financial impact also teaches us the importance of using the resources we have for the greater good. Just as the profits from the Passion of the Christ were used to benefit those in need, we can all reflect on how our actions and resources can be directed to create a positive impact. Whether through donations, volunteering, or even using our faith to influence positive change in our community, we can learn to apply this practical lesson in our daily lives, always with the aim of doing good. The film, therefore, became not only a work of art, but also a tool for social transformation.